All right, so look, thanks very much for agreeing to spend some time with me today and just talk about the journey that you've been on this season. Tell me a little bit about your career over the last 10 years.
Yeah, so in juniors, won the under-19s, Ironman and swim at state. Got a few kind of medals in the swim previous years before that. Fair few medals in teams and stuff, and won a few Aussie golds in teams as well. Then won a few open races, particularly run, swim, run and swims. A couple of irons just at kind of small local carnivals.
Okay, so why Ironman?
It's just, I find it the best sport because there's 4 different legs, and it's unpredictable no matter what it is. You get waves, like sometimes you're racing 8 foot, sometimes you're racing dead flat, so it's different every race.
Yeah, and growing up here in Cronulla, did that have much of an influence on choosing that?
Yeah, of course. So I was in nippers when I was under 9s, so ever since then I've just been at the beach pretty much non-stop.
How would you describe your career before we did our season this year? How would you have described your competitive seasons before that?
Very inconsistent. It was up and down. Go from winning a race to losing the next one, and just yeah. And what was that doing for your motivation? What was that doing for getting up in the morning? Because you guys do crackers things like 5 a.m. swims and stuff, don't you? Yeah. So it's just very frustrating because I wasn't really realizing what was happening, and I just couldn't figure out why I was doing what I was doing. And now working with you helped me kind of step back and see everything and all the patterns that are happening. So yeah, like with motivation, it was tough sometimes because you go, why is this happening? Okay, I'm just going to train through it and then kind of hope for the best every time, which doesn't work.
Yeah, you can say that now, can't you? Because
definitely
12 months ago when we had this kind of conversation, you wouldn't have said that, would you?
No, definitely not.
No. All right, so why? Why did you choose this season to do it different?
Well, I think frustration was a big part of it. I just wasn't getting the results I wanted and the results I think I deserved after all the work I was putting in. Obviously, Simo recommended you, so jumped on it straight away.
When we first started, it's fair to say there was a little bit of resistance, would you say?
Yeah, because it was so, like, I haven't done anything like it before, so it was completely outside the comfort zone and just something completely new.
Do you remember our first session when we did the balls and looked at the grid and? Yeah,
I remember being very, very tired after it.
Very tired?
Yeah, just because I couldn't stop thinking about it the whole time. Just kind of, first time I kind of realised how far behind I was on the mental side.
It's an interesting thing you say that, because do you think you're behind in the mental side, or do you think that wasn't optimising your tendencies?
Wasn't optimising mine. I was thinking far behind is the very top people in the sport, not the majority.
Okay.
So I was thinking of the top 1, 2, 3 sort of
thing. Okay. Because there is definitely a difference in the mindset of people that are consistently winning compared to those that are in that tipping point trying to get in there, aren't there?
Yeah, 100%.
So as the athlete standing on the beach before you go, what is it you see different in other people?
I just notice the different behaviours and then their language as well. Like as soon as someone starts talking negative, or you can see they've lost straight away before it even happens.
Yeah, and that's we go back before we did this season. That was part of the cycle that you was in. Negative language, reacting to your environment, and that's not a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of how you've been brought up in this kind of sport, or every sport really. Humans are reactionary creatures, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
So when we had some of those early day resistances, there was a tipping point where you kind of broke through that, didn't you? Can you remember what that was? Can you remember when you kind of went, okay, I'm not going to fight this anymore, I'm going to work with this?
I remember being very, very frustrated, and then could see why I was, which was kind of the first time, and then I could, okay, if I can see why, then I can fix it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
That was.
So it's quite empowering, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you recognise it's uncomfortable, but it's empowering.
Yeah.
If Simo hadn't have said to you this was a good option for you, where do you think your career would have gone? Would you have carried on doing the same things?
100%. I would have just been stuck in the loop. I think just doing to repeat it. Might have got a couple of good results, but definitely do not think I could have sustained it.
Yeah. And do you think that you would have moved on from the sport, or do you think you would have just slugged it out?
I think I would have slugged it out, but I'm not. I believe I would have been in the middle of the pack my whole life, which was somewhere I did not want to be.
Yeah. And listening to your language, one of the things that was really evident working with you was some people you have to not dance around, but be very, very selective in how you deliver the information. I found with you that the more honest I was with you, the more bang for buck we got from each session. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'd rather just have a straight conversation than you're trying to protect my feelings and then I'm not getting what I want out of it. So yeah, more than happy for you to insult me. If I can improve in my sport, I'm happy for you to say whatever you want.
That's good. What do you think? Because there was, as I say, there was a little bit of resistance. If Simo hadn't have done that and kind of prompted you, why do you think most athletes don't look for mental performance coaching when you have such good physical and technical coaches?
Honestly, I didn't really know it was a thing. Like, you kind of hear bits and pieces, just kind of rumors that someone's doing it, and then kind of, yeah, so it's like I heard what it was, but I wasn't 100% sure what it actually is. So yeah.
So how would you describe it? If people now, you've done a season with me, if people turn around and said, look, I know you've just been on this mental performance journey, what is it? What would you say to them?
I'd start off with saying it's probably the most important thing. Now that I know what it is, I'd probably find it pretty hard to sum it up, but do my best. It's kind of helps you find better motivation. You're more process driven, and it's how to keep your emotions in check and kind of understanding them and using it at the right time.
So when we first started working, it's fair to say that there was some of the exercises that I introduced that were very unusual for you. What are some of those earlier exercises that you thought were a little bit strange?
So the drill moving the tennis balls in a pattern when you're blindfolded, and the balls against the wall and on the ground. Like, yeah, it was a bit weird because I didn't really understand it at first, and then kind of got explained to me. And then after you understand it, it's not so weird because you go, like, there's a method to the madness.
Yeah.
Also, the blindfold, going through like your technique, closing your eyes, visualizing it, and then going through, like, at the start you kind of go, I look like a complete weirdo here. Yeah. After you kind of realize how beneficial it is, and like what you're doing each time it's just another training session. So yeah.
So how do you see it different now?
Well, I understand. Like, before, like, you go, like, bouncing the balls, you go, well, I'm visualizing my technique. I've got 3 words that I'm repeating, so I'm forming a process of each one, so I know exactly what I'm doing, and it just becomes subconscious. Like, moving the balls blindfolded, yeah, why am I doing this? And then you realize it's all about making it process, which that transfers to racing. So you have your process when you're racing and just use that.
You said just a minute ago that before we started working, it was like an untold little secret that some people had out there. How would you change that? Now that you've been through only one season, But how would you change that for other athletes?
You just kind of spread it, like spread the word, and then like everyone can see in your results, like why you're doing what you're doing. Like there's obviously an increase, and then they can see you more clinical, and you're approaching everything differently. So I feel like once they start to see that big change, they can go, oh, what you're doing is different. So you just be honest and tell them.
Yeah. What's been your biggest improvement this season?
Probably, I reckon, just debriefing and figuring out what I did wrong and what I did right each race and what I could have done better. And it was just, I feel like that was the biggest gain for me, because I didn't really make the same big mistake twice.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because we humans are very good at following patterns.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's a good pattern or it's not a good pattern, we tend to follow those. The fact that every time something occurred, you fixed it, or you found a solution or a strategy around that, so you didn't repeat that, there's obviously a natural growth that comes with that. Do you feel like it's been although you haven't got all the results you wanted, do you feel like it's been a good season?
100%. Like I look back at it now and go, this is the season I've learnt the most. And I probably learnt more in this season than all the other seasons before that. Like, yeah, very eye-opening.
So now you've got a bit of a break, although you guys don't get a lot of a break, do you? You're still training. What are some of the things that we did that you still do, even though you're doing some downtime?
Well, I've been working on ownership, so I started doing everything myself at home. I feel like that's the biggest one. Like,
how's that going?
Oh, it's all right. Like, I'm not eating as like the food I'm eating doesn't taste as good, because Dad's a pretty good cook and he's cooking up everything, where I'm just cooking just chicken with a bit of seasoning and some vegetables on the side, where they're having seafood paella or something like that. So it sucks, because I'll be eating at the same time they are and I can smell it, but it's going well.
Biggest lesson from this season for you?
Just how important the mental side is. Like I never realised how big that is, and now I realise it's the most important bit. You can be the fittest, fastest person in the race, it doesn't matter if you're not mentally prepared.
Good call. What's the future look like for you?
I'm pretty excited for what's happening. What's ahead for me.
Yeah. Look, working with you, I'm fortunate enough to work with a lot of athletes, and when you come across an athlete that is so receptive, it's very exciting for me as a coach to be able to work with someone like that. And the fact that we can have very open, honest conversations just expedites the process so much more. So from my perspective, as somebody who's been on this journey with you this season, it's been an absolute pleasure to do that, because yes, we've had some challenging times. I've seen the way you've looked at me sometimes, but I've also seen such growth. And like, you're 20 years old. You're not at the end of your season. It's at the end of your career. This is really the tipping point into it. So it's quite an exciting aspect. What would you say to a younger version of you?
Probably seek you out earlier. But yeah, also you got to really own it. Like, this is your journey. This isn't anyone else's. You got to be the one driving the bus. Like, I feel like just sat at the back of the bus for too long. Just definitely, get out the front and start driving.
Like it. I like that. This season I've been the one asking all the questions. You got a question for me?
Not off the top of my head.
You're the only person I've ever done this with who's gone, no, I don't. Normally people have got a catalogue of things they want to have asked me. That's cool. That's good. I think that means we've been very open and honest with each other the whole time.
Yeah.
All right. So we know what the season in front of you looks like. You're already realistically working on that and day to day. How do you build mental performance not only into your training, but into the rest of your life?
So it's like I said before, taking ownership is fine, is the biggest one. So I'm doing everything. If I'm not doing everything, I'm letting everyone know what I want to be done. Also, I found having a standard, so I'm doing everything to my standard. I want to be proud of it. So waking up, making my bed every morning, I want to go, I didn't just throw the sheets over the bed and just left it messy. I wanted everything perfect, no creases or anything like that. Sheets folded over, tucked in. So
Nice. How are your parents finding this?
I don't like. They're starting to love it.
Yeah.
It's first time I've kind of haven't got them doing everything for me. So yeah.
And that's not an unusual thing for an athlete who are very, very busy, is it? Like, the parents are normally very, very bought in, and they play a huge part and a role in that, but they don't necessarily always realise that can be detrimental too.
Yeah, I think they're always just trying to help, so they don't realise that kind of helping too much is counterproductive.
Yeah.
So I think they've got good intentions, just didn't realise how it was affecting me.
Okay.
I didn't either. Really.
No, absolutely. Yeah, we don't know what we don't know, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say to other athletes who are seeing what you're doing, who have seen the shift in you? I know your coaches have seen that shift in you, and clearly your parents have too. What would you say to younger athletes out there who are looking to follow you into your career?
You gotta figure out what works for you. So you gotta figure out what you need, whether it is mental coach or yeah. So you gotta figure out what works for you. I would recommend a mental coach, because I found I didn't realise what didn't really work for me at the time, and now working with you, it's helped a lot. Now I've figured out what I need.
Being through one season with you, I'm looking forward to the next season and making sure that we compound everything we built this season. It's been a real pleasure working with you. Like I said, I know it's not always been easy, and I know I've not always been easy on you, but the growth in you this season has been phenomenal, and like to watch that in a young athlete is quite inspiring. So I look forward to watching you next season dominate the ocean.
Yeah, thank you.